Board of Trustees meeting for March 1st, 2016. Call the meeting to order. Roll call, Mr. Hoffeld.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Carvel. Mr. Deshays.
Sir.
Mr. Levere. Present. I am here. Trustees, unless I hear objection, I'd like to move item 6A to the top of the agenda so Mr. Pong can get her on over back to water time before the weather hits. There's no objection if you don't mind. Okay, so we're going to go to 6A under new business. Some background on this. Just about a year ago, not quite a year ago, I started having some discussions with Dank with regard to some services that they offer and the various things that we're looking to do in this community. And one of the key items that we discussed, of course, was housing efforts such as neighborhood blight, affordable housing, fair housing, housing rehab, and those types of things, and also part of the downtown restoration. So one of the items that caught my attention was the ability to partner with Dank and to expand our housing office. As you know, we currently have 2 part-time employees there. Our housing coordinator has expressed that he will be leaving when the current grant expires in April. So we won't have anybody to run that office. So the timing to look for other ways to do this is somewhat perfect. So what the hope is, by partnering with Dank, is that we'll be able to aggressively pursue actually more funding around that office, expand it, to deal with the housing issues that we have in our community. You name it, whatever federal housing grants are out there, we could pursue them. So, and as you know, we've kind of already begun to partner with Dank because of the Alcoa news. They passed a couple of resolutions to support us. One was the targeted business recruitment development effort for Messina here. And the other was they authorized up to $36,000 of spending for what's called a vendor diversification program. So those people that rely on Alcoa for their business, to allow them to diversify their business other ways. So Michelle Capone is here, so I'm going to turn it over to Michelle. Michelle, thank you for coming.
And thank you very kindly for moving me up on the agenda. I very much appreciate that. My name is Michelle Capone. I'm Director of Regional Development at the Development Authority of the North Country. I've been there for 16 and a half years, going on 17 years now. Regional development oversees several housing and business loan programs across the 3-county region and also across the 7-county North Country region. Currently, we're overseeing several different programs for municipalities across the region. In addition to housing, we've also overseen loan underwriting services for the St. Lawrence County Industrial Development Agency, the Lewis County Industrial Development Agency, Town of Gouverneur, and the City of Ogdensburg. In terms of housing, we're currently administering the housing program for the City of Ogdensburg. We've been successful in applying for and receiving Community Development Block Grants, CDBG grants, for 2 targeted areas in the City of Ogdensburg, both Ford Street and New York Avenue. We're currently in the midst of that New York Avenue grant. It's been very successful. I think you can go ahead and talk to the City of Ogdensburg, and there's a reference to here how we've been able to run that program. But the agreement that you have in front of you this evening references the services that we would be providing to the village. There's basically 2 primary areas that we've discussed. The first one being housing administration, and that would be a not-to-exceed amount of $14,000 annually, which we would take our direction specifically from village staff. Primarily, that would most likely entail the grant writing piece of it for the most part, depending on how many applications we would have to write. But any other activities, say there's an open grant that still needs some final tweaking or some final, maybe some village staff needs some assistance to help finish something or wrap something up, our staff would be happy to help do that. We would really be the overseer of your housing administration for your housing program. So that's the housing administration piece of it. The other piece of it in this agreement is program delivery, or project delivery, I'm sorry, and grant administration services. As you can see in this, we have a not to exceed per unit amount that we would commit to of $3,750. The reason we can't commit to an amount in this section is because that's really grant specific. We really don't know how many units we would be applying for until we looked at the program to see how much funding was available. And then we would go out and look at a few homes in the targeted area and see how much money we could apply for and how many units would be successfully completed. So what we're saying going into this is for program delivery, and what program delivery really covers is our time to help to identify the applicants. We would help identify the applicants, review them for income qualifications and eligibility. The village would ultimately make the decision who receives the funding. We don't have anything to do with that. Once the decision is made, we then work with those applicants to put together bid documentation. We have our engineering staff go out, review the house, put together a work specification to see what work can be completed within the budget. We then go ahead and help bid that out for the homeowner. Bids come back, we review them, review with the homeowner, select the contractor, go to work, wrap it up, and then we've had hopefully a successful program. Typically, depending on the funding source, you can get about 10 to 12 homes completed within a funding round, but again, it's all grant specific. Again, we utilize our internal resources, so not only my staff, which it consists of my senior project development specialist, Matt Taylor, who has worked in affordable housing for over 25 years, so he has a very good background in affordable housing, as well as our engineering staff. We have a project engineer that actually goes and reviews the houses and also oversees the construction. And we also involve the code office as well. So in any of the home inspections that we do, we make sure that code is involved in that so that we know that the work that's being completed is up to code specifications. Are there any questions I can
So
answer
is this
for you?
in lieu of what we're, an expense that we have in the budget? In other words, if we did head this direction, would something come off the books next year? Or is this gonna be another expense that we're going to have?
A portion of this would be an additional expense, right, the administration piece of it. But as far as the program delivery could be written into the grants, correct?
Yes, I'm sorry I didn't specify that. The program delivery is
I'm
paid
the
for.
money guy.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The program delivery is specifically paid for by the grant. So you don't have that expense unless we successfully get a grant application. And that's written into the grant. And that's why I couldn't give you a specific dollar amount.
Okay.
Typically what you do is if we did, say, 12 units at $3,750 a unit, that's $45,000. So the grant would cover that $45,000. And then the administration piece of it, to do the grant, the paperwork and the semi-annual documentation and help to submit the draw requests. Typically, you can ask for additional money on top of that, and the grant will pay for that. So that's what covers running the housing, administering the housing grant and delivering that program.
But the base cost is $14,000 right after?
Up to $14,000, and that's on an hourly basis.
Okay.
So we would not bill you unless we were actually doing work for you. And as I mentioned, we take our directions specifically from the village. So what I could foresee is grant writing. You know, if there was a couple of grants that you wanted us to apply for, we would give you our rate up front and say, this is what we think it's gonna cost to do this grant.
I see.
And we've discussed with our grant writer, so there may be some overlap. In other words, so we may go to our grant writer and say, we want this grant written, but it might be a housing piece where DANC has the expertise. So then they would coordinate with them, and that's when they would be billed for that course.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Let me just ask you a question. You work hand in hand with HUD?
Yes,
You do?
yes,
Okay. We do have HUD.
yes. We have a very good relationship with HUD. We actually administer the North Country Home Consortium. That's a consortium of, I think, 105 municipalities across Jefferson, Lewis, and St. Lawrence counties. And on an annual basis, we get an allocation of housing dollars from HUD, and we actually just put out a request for proposals for municipalities to request funding. At this time, Messina is not a member of the consortium. I think you opted out of it maybe 6 or 7 years ago. It's been quite a few years since you've been a participant in the consortium. But you're always welcome to come back in. You're welcome.
Are the rates that you charge, are these across the three counties?
Yes, they're the same. Yes.
What is on page 6? Is that just a signatory page? Should we go to files?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Yes.
It's the notary.
Okay.
So we're not looking for a decision tonight, John.
Right.
We just wanted to make a presentation, give you some time to think about it, the contract.
And I'm available for questions at any time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Stay
you.
safe travels.
Yes, thank you very much.
All right.
Stay.
It's December 28, 2015. So moved. Mr. Lemire.
Second.
Second by Mr. Rocco. Discussion. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of meeting minutes for January 5th, 2016. Mr. Lemire. Second by Mr. Otto. Discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Reports of officers and committees. Treasury report, Ms. Charlotte.
The report I'm presenting tonight is actually the report that I did for the February 16th meeting, which was canceled due to inclement weather. You've all been provided with balance sheet and revenue expense actual to budget comparison reports for the month of January. A summary of the report for the 5 major funds is listed on your report. Year-end projections were updated through January 31st of 2016 for these same funds. You have been given spreadsheets as well as the department managers. Departmental and agency budget requests have been turned into the mayor as of February 4th. I believe you've all received copies in your budget binders. I've entered the submitted data into various budget spreadsheets and actually now have completed estimates for the employee benefit section of the budget. Sales tax received from the county in January was $414,565.77. This was down $35,308.36 from the same period last year. This brings our total for the year to $864,719.23%, or 51% of our budgeted amount of $1,694,450. Projecting this trend forward for our next 2 quarters, this would have us receiving approximately $672,925 for the year, which is a 6.3% decrease from last year's actual total and approximately 1.3% under our budgeted amount. Mortgage tax received in December was $16,402.27, a decrease of $312.73 from the $16,715 received for the same period last year. Outstanding refuse, water, sewer bill balance notices have been sent out on 1,176 accounts. Amounts that are not paid by March 31st will be re-levied onto the June village tax bill. We have no action items at this time.
Questions from Ms. Sharp? Thank you. Committee reports, code enforcement, Mr. Carville, Mr. Lemire.
We have a item a little bit later on in the agenda.
Economic Development Committee, Mr. Otto, Mr. Lemire.
Do you want to, I saw on paper you were talking about removing the CFO coalition. When do you expect to present that? Like
Putting final edits together. The goal was this month of March, so I anticipate that that's going to happen
I mean,
sometime.
will we see it before the general public,
Yes,
or how you going to do
you
that?
will, absolutely.
Very good.
Fire Committee, Mr. Carville, Mr. Lemire.
We got interviews last week. We'll have more of the
Anything, Mr. McDonald?
No, it's not there.
Personnel Committee, Mr. Carville, Mr. Deshaies.
we said that in police interviews and also the fire department interviews.
Police Committee, Mr. Carville, Mr. Deshaies.
Unless she'd like something, we're taking a request at the end of the meeting that we have a short executive session and ask chief to please attend.
Recreation Commission, Mr. Deshaies.
Yeah, financial report of February this year over last year for February, it's up $2,500, which is great for recreation. Whole business in Montreal Canadian, we're at the All-Star Game. They sold between $1,500 and $1,600 they made on a hockey game down there. Well attended. Winter Earth War, they had 32 players. If you ever seen that, it's quite something to see, these kids. When we were kids, we used to play cops and robbers. These guys do it to the work. It's great to see it on ice. And they have Melissa Cup, Closet tournament. They netted $950. And a rebuilt compressor they had to have fixed, out of the $16,000 bill, it cost us $1,000 because of insurance, which is a great thing, it's a good move. The Excelsis Blue Cross Blue Shield grant opportunity that they're applying for is to purchase skates. So if anybody wants to go down, they want to utilize the arena, because most of the thing is done now, they want to utilize the ice, and they want to get a bunch of skates, let people come down and use it, stuff like that, providing that they get, just an idea of getting people to get involved in it more. A lot of people give them an opportunity to try out skating and maybe hockey. The Adams sectionals is going to be this weekend in Messina at the arena, March 4th through 6th. The figure skating event's going to be, testing is going to be on March the 19th. There's going to be a broom ball tournament, March 19th to the 20th. And then the big Sportsman's Rod and Gun Club, after the ice is out, will be on April 9th and 10th. That's in my report.
Thank you. Street Committee, Mr. Oppo, Mr. LeBear. We are setting up the Complete Streets workshop, which is scheduled for April 6th. So a number of village staff will be invited to that, and that's a day-long session, which is the, I guess, the precursor to the creation of the Complete Streets policy as we go forward. So we're working with the county on that and the Department of Transportation. Water and Sewer, Mr. Oppo, Mr. LeBear.
Some, talk about that, those policies.
Oh, yes, sorry. Some proposed code changes relating to that. Yep.
Okay. Moving to initial public comment period for the record. I'd like to divide this into two things. So first, I know we have a number of people here that are concerned with the Public Works property expansion. So I'd like to address that first, and then we'll take other public comment period on other items after that. So opening the floor for public comment. Ma'am.
My name is Pam Ryan. I'm 25 Urban Drive. At this time, we would like to present a petition to the board stating that we are opposed to the village of Messina purchasing land for the DPW to bring this stuff over from the South Main Street, the salt, the sand, the dirt, the compost piles, whatever. And the other thing is we want to know why weren't we, as the residents and taxpayers, notified of this before the last, when we voted on it.
Why weren't you notified?
We read about this in the paper, that all this stuff was going to be coming behind us, and that was the first time we heard of it.
To be clear, the decision hasn't been made to do that. So that's first to be clear. But I understand your concern, but property negotiations, I mean, they're done in private for the simple reason, ensure that someone else doesn't go in and secure the property, drive the price up. So those discussions are done privately.
For what?
You want to hand that to us, please? Sure. Thank you. Further public comment, sir?
Yeah, I'm Tom Sigwin, I live on 20 Urban Drive. I kind of made up a statement that I would like to read, and maybe it'll help a lot of these people come up with some questions. I'm here to voice that I'm totally against this move of locating material to the present DPW site and the purchase of the land to be used by the DPW. I do not want that comes with it all, with dumping of these materials in our backyards. The noise, the extra lights, the road, the traffic, the noise and dirt that will come with this, not to mention the decrease in home values of all the properties in that area. When Home Depot was built, we were all misled. We were also told by the DPW when they took over the Army Reserve Center that there would be not an outlet road on Stephenville Road. Well, today, there is an access road. The DPW said it would not utilize Urban Drive as an access road, but DPW vehicles would travel unnecessarily, and it has become just that. This traffic has to stop somewhat in recent days, has stopped somewhat in recent days, but will only continue to grow in use again over time. They paved Urban Drive a few years ago, and today it looks terrible. We were made promises by our village representatives that were broken many times. I would like to take some time to dwell on the comments that are made to several members of our area, and really does not matter who said what. Comments were directed at residents by DPW staff that we are all just complainers, and that we do everything, they will do everything possible to harass us. We do not need to be harassed by anyone. We simply do not want this in this area. And let me say this, I don't believe any of you would want Home Depot and a DPW in your backyard. If we are complainers, so be it. But we live in an area that we choose to live in, and have peace and quiet, and have nice homes. We want to be good neighbors. We do not wish to have a sand pit, a gravel pit, salt piles, whatever else the DPW decides in our backyards. We do not want all the traffic that this brings. I'm sure if this was dropped in the backyards of you that sit in this village trustees, it would be an issue. I'm sure you would all understand where the people of Urban Drive and East Hatfield are coming from. I hope you can once consider how we, the residents, feel. If you must move material from South Main Street site, please consider other options. In 3 years, Alcoa could be gone. I believe you should not be spending money in which the village taxpayers do not have. I also might add that this project is just not going to cost the taxpayers $33,000, but much higher, thousands and thousands of dollars. I understand you need to sell the present property on South Main Street, but it doesn't not mean that you need to move this material into our backyards. Please find other alternatives that are more suitable than this option that you are looking at. We should be looking at developing this residential properties for the present and future tax rolls, not losing more of our tax base. So I ask you that you all reconsider this move and look out for the good of the residents. Please consider what you are asking us to give up, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Siegel. Further public comment? You sure can, please feel free to.
How do you get it to work?
Yeah,
hold it. Can you hear me? Doesn't
There
matter,
you
okay.
go.
Oh, all right. My name is Jacqueline Searle, and I do live in Messina, and my purpose for being here at this meeting tonight is because after a year and a half of looking for a home to buy in Messina, I have settled on a home on Urban Drive. I started that process back in January, and through the news, I was informed of your proposal to move the highway facilities to the Urban Drive, East Hatfield area. Well, coming from the city, I can tell you that concerns me. The material in and of itself, it needs to be in its own place, not near a residential area. The winds up here are very strong, blows sand, salt, topsoil through the air. It's not healthy. Some states have even banned it. I just wanted you to look into the health effects of the highway material that you currently use on our roads and our streets, and reconsider putting it so close to a residential area. I've been all around Messina. I've seen a lot of places that are nice, some not so nice. I think Urban Drive, that area, is a really nice area. It's kind of sitting in its own little niche in the country. I would like to see it stay that way. I do have concerns about where you're going with the purchase. I don't personally oppose you purchasing the property. I'm concerned about what you plan to do with the property that you just purchased that happens to be in my backyard, well, will be, hopefully. So I know you talked about the newspaper buffer zones. And I'm not sure, last time I seen a buffer zone, they're just kinda like these huge concrete things that you have to look at, and they're not, just not ready, just don't belong there. There's plenty of land in and around Messina to put that material in a place that will not affect anything or anybody. And I would just ask you to seriously consider that before saying, nope, we're gonna go over there. I don't, there's trees, okay? Would you have to like cut down the trees? Just think of all the changes that you would have to do just to provide space for highway material. Is it worth it to disrupt the current condition of the area just for that? I don't think so. I really don't. Take my advice, leave the North Country the way it is. Don't try and change it. Don't try to make it look urban. You'll be sorry. I guarantee. I grew up 46 years in the city. I've lived up here for 8 years. I'm staying. I'm putting down roots. My sons will grow up here, and this is where we'll be. It's where I choose to be. I already know all about other places I've lived there. I don't want to go back there. And I wouldn't want to see you make a financial decision that might not turn out to be the best thing to do. So just take into account what everybody's here to say about the area. It sounds like they want to see it stay the way it is. I certainly do, because I'm making a huge investment in the area. And just reconsider doing that with the material in that area. Look for other options, I'm sure there will be. Thank you.
My name is Bob Larsh. I live on Urban Drive. I think we all recognize that Urban Drive and that area of East Hatfield is a residential neighborhood. The proposal is not being very neighborly.
Sure. I'm Meyer. I also live on Urban Drive. I own 2 houses on Urban Drive since my mother passed away. I inherited her house. My parents moved there in 1959. Most of the people that were there have moved on or passed away. But it was a nice, quiet neighborhood. Occasionally we had airplanes flying overhead. Now they say that they're going to put all of this stuff in our backyard, and all I can think of is from the end of November or whatever until the spring, you are going to have trucks coming in all night long, loading up with sand and salt, and those trucks are going to have the beep beepers where they back up, and they're going to, create a lot of noise in the middle of the night. So, and then in the summertime, we won't have that problem, but we will have a lot of other problems with cooling of water, when you have all of these piles of dirt and salt and whatever. You're going to have, cooling water because it's not going to drain away, particularly if you cut down trees. That will take care of the draining away part. And I think it's a bad idea to put that in our backyards. And this is just the people on Urban Drive. There's people on Hatfield and on Bailey Road. They're going to have the same because it's going to be in their backyards. And I know you're going to have to put in some roads to, move these trucks from one point to another point. And I can see a lot of trees coming down, the wildlife that's there that we all enjoy. We've got wild turkeys in the backyard, we've got foxes, we've got an occasional bear. That was quite a while ago, the bear, but we have a lot of deer. And I hate to think that they're going to have to move on because you want to bring in all of this stuff. So I too think that's a bad idea.
My name is Cheryl Gay. I also live on Urban Drive. We now are at the edge of the back field where we can see the village where we are. We can see all the lights I'm laying in bed down to sleep, and all of a sudden, I hear now the backup trucks, and I know they're doing their job, but I agree with what a lot of other people have said about the traffic on our road. I just assume the village has two ways to get in. You know, they have their route that goes up Stephenville, and they have the back way, but they want to use Irvin Drive. Irvin Drive is sunk. And it's been sunk, the road sunk in, and they repaired that already. But now it's right back to where it was. And that's because of the heavy equipment going up and down the street constantly. I mean, granted, we gotta have the garbage truck. Granted, we gotta have the recycle truck. But the heavy trucks, and I know a lot of people have said things about Home Depot, they even use our street.
That's right.
And for the same thing, they have their own access road, but they want to use our street. But anyhow, getting back to the wildlife that was mentioned, I've been living there for 31 years. When I moved in there, you got the feeling of living kind of out in the country because it was that tight. You know, and there's been development across the road from us, which doesn't bother me because that's somebody's house. You know, that's, you know, it's growth. It's not a dirty growth as far as like the dirt and the sand and the salt and everything. But I'm afraid that you're going to be right in my backyard. I'm getting most of it now, what I can hear. But I'm going to be getting a lot more. I'm going to get more lights, more traffic, more noise at night. I taped it, not that I'm going to have you listen to it, but I put my phone out my bedroom window. And you can hear it like it's right in your bedroom. And the dumping of the dirt and the tailgates of the loaders and the tailgates of the big dump trucks, that slams down and you could just about come out of your skin in the middle of the night because it's so noisy. That's going to double. It's going to triple because you're going to have access roads going through there. And this is Meyer said the wildlife. Where's the wildlife going to go? That's why I moved there 31 years ago. It's because I enjoyed that. We maintain our backyard mowed so that our children have a nice, safe place to play. Now it's my grandchildren, you know, but I'm not going to let them go back there, you know, because, I don't know, but that's my opinion. It's just I don't agree with them doing it either. You know, I don't, like they said, I don't care if you buy the property, but please don't use it for that. You know, I just assume you use it to develop it or something, but not use it for dump trucks and dirt and salt. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Beck. Mr. Gray.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Sean Gray, 5060 Service Street. I think I'd just like to clarify something, perhaps on behalf of Mrs. Ryan. I don't think she was saying she wanted to be a part of the negotiations. I think what she was saying was when you're going to pass a resolution at a public meeting that impacts a lot of people, it might make sense to inform the people that's going to happen. This item appeared on the agenda 4 weeks ago, 2 meetings ago. 2 hours before the meeting started, there was no way for people to have knowledge that it was going to happen. So perhaps this is a teachable moment. I would think that in the future, if you're going to have a resolution on your agenda that's going to impact this many families, it would make sense to put out some sort of public notice so that they could come. You may have been able to nip a lot of these issues in the bud. You could have had this discussion. At that meeting, I think I asked you, why was this so time sensitive? We all know that real estate transaction takes several weeks. It didn't have to be done on the spur of the moment. I just think that it's a real concern that these things happen. I come here twice a month to these meetings. There's usually 2 or 3 people. A lot of things happen. Because of limited space, the paper can only put sound bites in of what goes on at these meetings. Some of the things that go on, it's a real eye-opener. I've sat here, I heard you have reports from your Blighted Properties Committee. You're very concerned with the blighted properties in the community. So why would it make any sense to blight a property right in the middle of the village? Right in the middle of all these people's homes? It just doesn't make any sense. So I would think if you could have public discussion. It would only make sense to try and invite the public in when you're going to impact them like you are now and have some honest discussion with them. Just a thought, maybe in the future that could happen.
Thank you, Mr. Rick. Further public comment on this issue?
I know I've already spoken, but I just want to say one more thing.
Sure.
Tom Susan here. A lot of what was said, I mean, I was there when Home Depot was built, and I was there when the Army Reserve came in and so forth, and they told us, and I want to stress this, we won't use Stephenville. Well, somehow, some way, and God only knows, I don't know how it happened, but they ended up buying the front property and the property closer to Stevensville Road, okay? So be it, you bought it, okay? It was also said that that would not be used for in and out, okay? Now you got traffic going out, in and out of Stevensville Road, which is not made for that either. There was a sign put there that DPW owned entrance to go in there, which is still there, I believe. But what I'm getting at is, why are you bringing all these big trucks and stuff through that area when you got 37 right there, okay? And it just doesn't make sense, okay? I also understand, most of these people, a lot of these people are senior citizens. We went over there to live in this area because it was quiet. I understand the economic part of this, I understand. You're getting a good deal. You're getting one heck of a good deal with that land. But why not let somebody buy it and develop it into real estate? I can understand why Mr. Helmer would not do it. He's gotta go in there, he's gotta plot the land, he's gotta put the streets in, he's gotta put the sewer in. And then, once he does all this, then he has to turn it over to the village. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money for a developer to go in there and do it, okay? Unfortunately, he doesn't have that kind of money to do it. Unfortunately, the economy in Messina cannot withstand things like this, okay? So this is why you're getting a deal on the land, because he wants to get rid of it. I would rather see the property stay where it's at, keep it on a tax roll, sell your property, do what you gotta do if you gotta sell the South Main. I understand that. If you wanna bring jobs in for down there, that area that's gonna be sold, I understand that. I'm sure everybody in this room understands that and wants to see jobs come. But don't bring the jobs in on the backs of the residents that are over there, that are trying to keep their houses up. We want our properties to look nice. You don't find bleak properties or whatever it is in our area like you find in other parts of the town. Why would you wanna make them go down in real estate? And I believe we have a real estate agent here tonight too. I mean, she could even vouch what would happen to our real estate. It's gonna go down. You're not gonna tell me that our real estate is not going down because Home Depot came in. Home Depot just did nothing but lie to us, okay? And it's like, if we accept anything, if we accept one little thing, then the next thing, oh, well, we're not gonna do that, we're not gonna do that, but then there's all these little baby steps in the future that are gonna, well, nobody's gonna say anything. Well, they didn't say anything, so we're gonna sneak in and we're gonna do it. Because that is what's happened right now. That is why Dave Goulden has sand piles right on the back of his property line, okay? That is why Pat Sergeson has sand piles right in the back of his property line. Because we slowly went in and they put it in there and nobody said anything. So all I'm saying is, these people in here, we just want you to respect our properties as if it was your own. Now, I'm sure you don't want it on yours.
Mr. Sheba, further comments?
Pam Barclay, Urban Drive neighbor. I realize that you need to move the stuff from South Main. Why not, what about all the land that you cleared down by the dump? Can the South Main stuff not go down there? You cleared the land from 420 right down through as far as you can see, down through there. What's your plan for that?
That's not our land.
Well, possibly could. You've got 33,000, you're buying behind me, you could maybe buy that land. And you don't realize the four-letter words as we stand in our backyards that we hear.
Right, all the time.
The employees, as well as the baseball players.
6:30 in the morning.
Yes. You can hear that? Yes, you can hear, no, I just made that up. Oh, no, I'm sorry. You can hear it very, very clearly, that there's no question about what the words are.
I live right across from the highway department. I live in the housing, on Perkins Road. So I see the trucks going on the Russell Road side in there, back there somewhere, wherever they go. And I know there's a baseball field back there. My children will kind of try to cross that way to get to Walmart. That's how they go. But, I see a lot of for sale signs in Messina, okay? And they're usually, like in a cluster area, you'll see like a range of for sale signs, and not so much on Urban or East Hatfield. Like, there's one home for sale that I know of on Urban Drive, and that's the one I wanna buy. So that tells you that, you know, people there are, that they wanna stay. They're not going anywhere. And that's a good sign, actually. from what you-
I saw other hands here. Yes.
Hi, I'm Debbie Martin, and I live at 202 Hatfield Street. And when this all started, I looked at my deed, and because I just kind of, you know, how often do you look at your deed? But anyway, I looked at it, and surprisingly enough, in 1864, my property, and it gives the length and all that, was on the southern border. My northern part of it was on the southern border of the Indian reservation, which must mean it's in the mile square. I don't even know. But I can tell you this, I walked back there, and there's evidence that something was back there. And what I'm wondering is, you know, the archaeological stuff with the Repatriation Act, how that's gonna affect all that. Because if you have the mile square somewhere along there, and that's noted in my deed, then there must be other artifacts around there. So I just thought I would bring that up and also say that I too am totally against this. What happens in my property at 202, there's a lot, there's me, I'm looking out my front window, and the lot left to me is open, and that's Wolf Road. It's in the town here. And I can only assume that if something happens, that's where some dump trucks are gonna go, and that's just gonna be so terrible. Right now too, everything is, if you go up there, it's not that much higher, I don't know what the elevation is, but everything's going down. So that kind of floods in my backyard and goes out into the road, so I don't know what kind of flooding's gonna happen either. But I'm more concerned about the Repatriation Act and how that's gonna affect this whole thing and what the parameters are. And I just wonder if you can find that out, because I tried to find that out and I couldn't. I don't even know if you can dig around there is what I'm trying to say. So I just thought I would bring that up to everybody. And I was surprised as all out to find that out. But you know, and I have my deed and you can see, and I don't know if anybody else has read their deed. If I'm the only one that has something that's 1864, so many chain links, and I was at the northern border, or the southern border of the Indian reservation. Okay?
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Martin. Enjoyable.
Leonard Manderville, businessman, 32 years, second generation. First and foremost, you guys, I'd like to say thank you very much, Haas. What a good job you do. Saved us a lot of money, went against the county, saved us a ton of money in garbage. Haas is all business. He's got Messina in his heart. I went down after the meeting, and I went into Haas's office. Brought him a cup of coffee, and I told him, Haas, this is a peace offering, because when I leave, we're gonna go to war. He said to me, come down to my office, which I did, very obliging. Said I was spouting off at the hip like I usually do. He said, come on down, I'll show you what we're gonna do. And everybody can go down, and Haas would do that for you. Don't take up his whole day, though. Right. What I'm saying, you guys, is I bought a house on East Hatfield Street for my mother-in-law. When I was talking to Haas, he put it up on his computer, how far away those salt piles are gonna be from her back door. And they're gonna be 500 feet from her back door. Now, she lives on East Hatfield Street. I bought a place, it's 18 acres, on Daly Road, which adjoins to the land that the village is buying. What I'd like to know
signed a letter of intent or a purchase offer?
We reached an agreement on the price.
Okay. So when I was done talking to Haas, I was so mad, I went to Hunter Casuals. And I offered him $35,000 for that land, which was right, Timmy, you're right. You keep that negotiations and you keep it quiet. Because somebody like me is gonna walk in and you're gonna buy it. And then I'm gonna go to all these people and I'm saying, would you like to buy your backyard? And we had a meeting, a village meeting, over at the community center, and all the neighbors were there. There was 22 people. I think we divvied it up, it would have been about $4,000 a person that would have bought the backyard. And that offer is stolen. That was a very smart move on the village, you guys, to go in there, because somebody would have went in there and bought that right out from underneath it, whether he just sold it to us or not. It's a 24-hour-a-day operation. Once you guys put that back there, I might have to move my mother-in-law. I moved her from Louisville into Messina on a nice quiet street, okay? And there's nothing I wouldn't do for my mother-in-law. What I wanted to ask Haas was, are you gonna bring the compost pile in back and put it with the salt and the sand? That's what I'd like to know. Is that going behind my mother-in-law's house? Or next to the land that I own?
Mr. Linderbaugh, I think it's important to point out, we've made no decision as to what we're gonna do. I mean, this is part of the process, of listening to people, so we're valuing the input we're getting right now.
Are you gonna pull everything from over there, the compost pile, the salt pile, and the dirt pile, and put it all back there?
If that property is sold, which it would appear that's going to happen,
Right.
we're going to have to relocate everything that's there.
Okay.
Where it goes, we don't know the answer to that right now.
Okay. Now, you're gonna have to move the ball fields, right? Is that my understanding? The 2 Bushnell ball fields?
No,
No?
no,
Okay.
we don't have to.
Are we going to?
It could be an option. It could be
Okay,
an
it's an
option.
option. Are you gonna build a 90-foot radius salt pit? Is that something we're gonna do?
No decision's been made as to what we're gonna do.
How are you gonna protect the salt?
We're gonna have to put it inside, we know that.
Okay, so you're gonna have to build a building. We know that, right up front. Okay? Between moving the ball fields and putting up a salt pit, which nobody's brought up that all around the state, the salt is killing everything. The young lady said that it's on a hill. She's right, it's on a hill, Tim. And that's all gonna come back down toward our offices, toward the projects. All that salt is gonna be, heck, you guys, on our water lines, our sewer lines.
I can taste it in the air.
But that's just my point, you guys. And I understand that we're a community and we need the money. We need 26 jobs. I'm in business, I know how it goes. But I don't want that in my mother-in-law's backyard, just like nobody else does. My concern is if we're gonna spend all that money, you guys, let's put it over next to the sewer plant or something. Right across the road from me or something. There's gotta be another place. There has to be another place. And one thing, you guys, is thanks for signing that purchase offer. Because I'd have been $35,000 cheaper today, or more today.
Thank you, Mr. Linderbaugh.
Good luck, fellas, you're gonna need it.
Further comments?
Sherry Gilman, I live on Bailey Road. What other pieces of property were looked at?
Could you speak up, please? I'm sorry.
What else was looked at for properties besides putting this in a residential area? What else was looked at?
We're actually, I was gonna say, it's important to reiterate the mayor's point that we have not settled on putting this in the residential area you're speaking of. Buying the property was, in my opinion, a couple of reasons. A, it was a very valuable investment, wise, great deal, and it provided just one arrow in the quiver. And we as a board are gonna be looking at every avenue. So any property that we have, I gotta imagine, I can't speak for the others, will be evaluated so we can determine what the best option is. And that's why we want people here. The decision, know, that the short notice vote that was referenced, that was simply buying the property. It was nothing to do with what we're gonna do with that property. We may sit on it. It's important to just reinforce that we haven't made any of those decisions. We are still exploring all those options. This is just one option that we put into our pool, simply because it was afforded to us and it was a wise, at least I believe, financially decision to take that offer.
Are you tied into this offer that you've made, this purchase offer?
Purchase.
Can you back out of it, or are you tied into it right now? In other words, are you gonna buy this property no matter what we say tonight? Are you there already? Has that already been signed where you cannot back out of it?
We've signed a contract with intent to purchase. I think we're just gonna, we're gonna leave it at that. I'm not gonna get into legal stuff at this point, you know, for obvious reasons. I don't wanna open this up to other issues.
So being a residential area, is this all gonna have to be rezoned if something was decided to go? If you decided, okay, we want this property, we're gonna do something with it, okay, does it have to be rezoned?
Keep in mind, another trustee at the last meeting we had, floated the idea of, could we swap this with property that's currently preserved? You know, the state legislature requires us to.
Yeah, but there's still, how many, if you don't mind me asking, how many of you people sitting on this board right here have been there? Have been over to that property and walked behind these people that live over there, walked behind their homes? How many? I know Mr. Carbo has, because he used to work there, okay? If you go out and back to Pam Ryan's house, and you walk out there, I would say probably 200 to 300 yards, which she's already got mowed, keeps mowed, and you go out another couple hundred yards, you're gonna be pushed down parking lot. Now, if you were to decide to do this, and you decide, well, we're gonna go right up the middle, what kind of a barrier would you give these people? What kind of a barrier are you gonna give, like Dave Goulden, the Gays, Holloway, Mr. Holloway that lives down there? I mean, what kind of a barrier, Pat Ferguson, what kind of a barrier are you giving these people right now? They have nothing. And you're gonna stick something up the middle, and if you stop and figure going up the middle, you're still, and you wipe out those trees, like somebody remarked, you're gonna have air blowing, it's gonna make it worse, it's gonna come up through there, because you don't have the trees to protect anything. You really need to stop and think what you're doing to these residents.
Mr. Mayor, with all due respect, I think this board's being a little disingenuous. The statement was made at the meeting, when you accepted that the reason we're looking at purchasing this is because we need a place to move the salt and the sand and the compost. That was stated categorically by your staff, and it was what was talked about in this room. And now because this room is packed with people who are impacted, now it's all of a sudden we haven't made any decision. That was the reason you gave that night for purchasing this property, was to move those things off of South Main Street because you were negotiating the sale of that property. So I think you're not really being fair with these folks. I'm not trying to embarrass anybody, but that's the problem at these meetings when there's very few people. Stuff is said and then there's no accountability. The village has other properties. Water Street, where you put all your snow, that would be the perfect place for a compost pile, because it would not impact the water. Composting is natural. There are certainly other options. But to say that no decision had been made and you were just buying this because it was a good investment, I don't think that's sincere. Because right in this room, 2 meetings ago, it was stated the reason for offering to buy that property or to negotiate the sale, the purchase of that property was to move the stuff from South Main Street. So I think now to say something different is very unfair. And what happens when people leave and nobody comes to the next meeting? What else will happen? So just be honest with people. I don't think that's asking too much.
So, Mr. Gray. I know I shouldn't, but I'm going to respond. I resent the insinuation that I'm being dishonest with that statement. At that meeting, I voted to purchase the property with having no preconceived notion that we were definitively doing anything with that property. And unless you're privy to something that I said to indicate otherwise, I resent the insinuation.
So it wasn't stated that night that you were buying it to move the stuff?
Did I state that?
I'm not saying you.
Did I state that the reason I voted for it was?
I'm not saying you. I'm saying, was that not stated in this room? Was it or was it not?
Who stated it?
I think staff stated it. first of
You
all.
stated it?
Julie, was it said? You have one?
I stated that I inquired of Mayor Courier.
Listen, I want to stop this right now. We are not going to go there, folks, all right? Mr. Gray, you just made the accusation that this board was being disingenuous. Now you're telling us that the staff made the statement.
No, I said you heard the statement, it was said in this room.
A
So
lot
to
of
say
things
that we
are-
had no plan.
Respectfully, a lot of things are said in this room. All right, it's not my style, like yours, sir, to get into this back and forth with people. People are entitled to their opinion. So folks, let's keep this respectful. I don't know anybody sitting here that isn't respecting this process, that wants to hear from people.
I'm not disrespecting anybody, I just want one
Yes,
question.
sir.
Now, money's tight all over, okay? So I understand. Now, if you don't use this area, you have just spent $33,000. Because what you're telling me is that you're probably in this and you gotta go with it, okay? So, you've just spent $33,000, so you're gonna tell me, I know down the road, you're gonna say, well, we have this property, we gotta do something with it now. Maybe we won't do what we wanna do, who knows, maybe we won't do this, but we definitely just spent $33,000, so we have to do something with this property. And I don't think Lucina has that kind of money to be just throwing $33,000 here and this here.
Just let it keep it open to the board, though, I'll give you $35,000. $35,000.
There you go, you made money already.
You guys aren't gonna do anything with it, I'll give you $35,000.
And the residents will
That's
pay the
$2,000
closing costs.
you're gonna make. You know how many nickel bottles that is? That's a lot. I will give you the $35,000 for the land.
Before we look for other repeating people, is there anyone else that hasn't spoken on this issue that wants an opportunity?
My name is Christine Ray.